Hey, what's up, guys? It's Bakes, and thank you for joining me for another episode of my random horror reviews. Today's movie is actually one that I've kind of spoken about on my channel before. It was my number 10 in my top 10 favorite horror movies of 2022 video, but I was really excited to give this one a rewatch. So as I said, it's from 2022, one of two films that director Ty West made last year, and the film is titled Pearl. Now, before I get into my thoughts of Pearl, I guess I should run through the story. And I guess I should also quickly specify as well, as I said, director Ty West did two horror movies last year. This is actually the prequel to the first one he did titled X, so just clearing that up for those who don't know. But this movie takes place in 1918. We follow our lead Pearl, who is this young woman who lives on this farm with her mother and her dad. The mum is really strict and overbearing, and she has her hand always down on Pearl. The dad is handicapped, disabled, he's in a wheelchair, can't speak. And Pearl just has dreams of running away and being a star. You know, she thinks she's bigger than this farm. She just really wants to get away, travel the world, and as I said, be this star. This is her dream. But there isn't something quite right with Pearl, and the movie sort of is this case study on her. And I guess I'll leave the story there, and let's get into my thoughts of 2022's Pearl. So I'm trying to think of where to start with a movie like Pearl, and I guess I'll start with, as I said, this movie takes place in 1918, and the look and the feel and the vibe of this movie matches that to a T. I guess I'll start with the feel of this movie. It's very golden age, whimsical daydream. It's like a horror version of Wizard of Oz. You know, it has all these technicolors, and the production and the sets are just insane. This movie's beautiful. But as I said, getting back to the colors as well, everything in this movie pops. Everything is technicolor. I watched some of the behind the scenes, after rewatching this film, and they said it was originally going to be in black and white, and the studio said no, and they went for a total reverse and just made everything technicolor, and that was such a good choice. Everything pops in this movie. When Pearl wears that red dress, it pops. The red barn, the green grass, the yellow cornfields. When Pearl's wearing her blue overalls, every prime color just pops in this movie, and it looks incredible. As I said, the production sets, the way the movie is shot, everything like that is pretty much to a T perfect, and you can't really fault this movie. Does look beautiful. Now, normally with my reviews, I don't jump into criticisms too fast, but that's actually what I'm going to do today, and technically I'm not getting into my own criticisms. I'm actually going to respond to some of the things that I've heard other people say who didn't like this movie. And I do want to clear up, first of all, most people that I've heard from really do like this movie, as do I, but from those who didn't, the thing that I often hear is that it's just too boring and slow, and, you know, there's no real reward that it builds up to. And I kind of feel like the people that say it's slow and boring didn't watch the entirety of the movie, because it definitely does pay off towards the end, and I'm not going to get into any spoilers or anything, but I feel like the build-up is definitely well worth it. And I do understand this movie is very character and dialogue driven, but when the dialogue is written masterfully and all of the characters in this movie are good, I don't really see the issue. I never feel bored watching this movie. As I said, when the characters are doing just one-on-one interactions and, you know, there's nothing really going on else in the scene, I just love it, because it's two actors acting their fucking asses off. This movie is incredibly acted. As I said, the dialogue is amazingly written. I don't know what else you really want. I do understand it is kind of slow. It is a bit of a slow burn to get to what I said is a really jaw-dropping ending, and an ending that I think is great. But I don't get it. I find this movie to be insanely entertaining, and even through scenes where, as I said, some people are just talking to the camera or one-on-one, there is little sprinkles of really quirky and weird shit going on as well. You know, Pearl interacting with the Scarecrow, or Pearl and the goose going down by the river. There are scenes in there that will freshen it up and keep you on your toes. As I said, I'm not going to deny that this movie is very character and dialogue driven, but as I said, I feel like too many people are saying it's boring and slow and there's no real reward. As I said, I just feel like most people haven't watched it all the way to the end. I just think this movie does a really, really good job of keeping you on your toes and keeping you engaged with the story and the characters. Now, speaking of the characters, getting into the performances in this movie, everyone does a really good job, and I mean fucking everybody. Nobody half-asses a performance in this movie. It doesn't feel like anyone's there just for a paycheck. I mean the fucking farm animals, I swear to God, they're good in this movie as well. Everyone is just fucking good in this movie. And most people will want to bring up Mia Goth as Pearl, and I will as well, I'll get around to that. But I just want to quickly say what I feel is the most underrated performance in this movie, and I don't know how, because she probably has the second most dialogue in this film other than Mia Goth, and that is Pearl's mother, Ruth, played by Tandy Wright, if I have her name correct. She is great in this movie, and as I said, she just conveys everything with so much emotion, and adds so much layer to her character, because on surface level, as I said, the mum seems very strict and has a firm grasp on Pearl, and she seems very mean and cold to Pearl, and she is to an extent. But as I said, she adds this layer, and we don't just figure out the background of what Pearl is really like because of her mother. I'm not saying that, but you start to realize as the film goes, she's not hard on Pearl just because she knows who Pearl really is. She knows the secrets that Pearl doesn't think other people know. And that's why she doesn't want her leaving and going around. And it just adds this other layer to her character. And I think, as I said, she has the most underrated performance. And I think just to sort of continue on Pearl's character, as I said, the mother isn't the only reason that we figure this out. But a lot of people think this movie is Pearl's fall into insanity. That's not the case. Pearl was already not right in the head. This is just her going over the line and going over tipping point. As I said, she wants to be a star. She wants to get off this farm. And the events in this movie is just her walking the tightrope until she eventually falls. And I think that is what a lot of people overlook in this movie, and something that, as I said, is done really well. And now, like I said before, getting into Mia Goth's performance as Pearl, I mean, where do I even start with this one? You know, looking back in hindsight, this was definitely the best performance of any horror movie in 2022. Arguably the best performance in any horror movie over the past decade. Like, Mia Goth just smashes this out of the park. Like, it's insane how good her performance is in this movie. And a lot of people want to bring up specific scenes, which I will as well. But, like, this whole movie, like, she just does it to a T. And so, like, it seems so effortlessly. Her dialogue is just incredible. Her accent, even her mannerisms. I think mannerisms is something in movies that a lot of people overlook, but she does like little quirky things at the start of the movie, and she carries them the whole way through. She does such a good job. And as I said, those scenes, a lot of people want to bring up that 6-minute monologue where the camera is just focused on her face, and she delivers this incredible speech, and it's just so fucking good. A lot of people want to bring up that scene, but I feel like it's a tie with the I'm a Star scene where she's on stage. Just how red her face goes, like tears coming out of her eyes at like perfect timing, just heart-wrenching screaming. Like, it is so fucking good. Her performance in it, like, I'm like lost for words. I don't really know what else to say. Like, so many people were saying, you know, she should have got nominated for an Oscar last year. No shit, she should have fucking definitely been nominated. Like, she was that good in this movie. Like, I swear, I really just don't know what else to say. She is that good in this movie. Like, I can almost, like, overlook, you know, as I said, with people having problems with the flow of this movie. As I said, it's very narrative and character-driven and all that sort of stuff. But if you say you had a problem with Mia Goth's performance in this movie, like, you're insane. Like, you don't know what the fuck you're watching, because she, as I said, just brings the fucking house down. She is so good as Pearl in this movie. So to wrap up my thoughts of Pearl and to give it a rating out of 10, as I said earlier, this was originally my 10 in my top 10 list of favourite horror movies of 2022. If my memory's right, I think I gave it a score of a 7.5 out of 10, something like that. And I always liked this movie, but I'd only seen it the once. This was my first time rewatching it. And if we are talking about the first time I saw this movie, first of all, this film never came out in cinemas here in Australia last year. It actually only came out earlier this year. So when it was last year and I was hearing a lot of people praise this movie and talk about it, and I had seen X, so this was high on my watch list. I had to watch it online, and I watched it on my little laptop, and it did not give the movie enough justice, as I said, with its cinematography and its colours, watching it on a tiny screen, it wasn't right. And as I was going to say as well, I watched it really late in the year, so I was just squeezing it in, and I think the pressure of squeezing it in as well, I wasn't fully engaged with the movie as much as I should have been. Of course, I still really liked it. As I said, it was my number 10. I loved the movie the first time I saw it, but I just love it so much more now. It definitely would be higher in retrospect on my top 10 list. I think I might even like it more than X, and X was my number 4 last year. I still think X is more rewatchable because it's just sort of a throwback slasher. It's sort of more simple to watch. But this is probably the better made movie. Pearl is awesome. Its new score, I'm going to have to give it a 9 out of 10. So, as I said, I think originally I gave it a 7.5. Yeah, Pearl is great. Like, as I said, it is, in sense, a sort of slow burn. It's very character and dialogue and, driven in that sense, so I can understand to an extent why some people might not like it, but I feel like the payoff and the performances and the dialogue is just worth it. This movie's great, so I'm going to leave it there. As I said, a 9 out of 10. I love Pearl. I had to put on my bright red beanie because, as I said, the colours in this movie just pop. The cinematography. There is just so much to highlight with this movie. I think it's great, but let me know your thoughts of Pearl. I know not everyone loved it, so if you had other thoughts about it, feel free to let me know in the comments below, guys. But thank you for joining me for this random horror review, guys, and I'll see you for another video soon enough. Peace.